Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the MMORPG 101, and we are here to do some grading today. Everyone's super excited about that, and
Yes.
we are going to hand out some grades. I've got a little prelim. I might be on my own little island today, so that should be pretty interesting. But let's introduce the people. I am Drac. I am your resident wizard. I also sell eggs on the auction house, so take all your money. We
lives.
We have Nathan Napalm. Say hi, Nathan.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Nathan loves this game. We have Theric, the lore ranger.
Hey! Yes, the lore ranger and soon to be less positive ranger than I usually am, but we'll see how this plays out.
Angry ranger.
The angry ranger.
The
yes.
deep lore of Lost Ark will win you over. We have Crit Fox, our PvP Mesta.
Hello.
Undefeated, as I like to call him.
Yeah.
And we have Stands in Fire, who always stands in the fire.
Somebody's got to be that guy.
All right, well, let's get into this thing. Let's just get to some grading here. We have several categories. We have grouping/rating. We have questing. We have classes, spells, skills, player versus player, sound and graphics, cash shop / monetization, lore, immersion, and addictability / fun. Those are our 8 categories. And then we give an overall GPA. And everybody gets their own grades. And we are super official. Only the most professional, most in-depth, most well-covered MMO people may vote today.
And let me just say, this is a very non-scientific process, except for Stans, who has a very scientific way of doing this. The rest of us,
Stan literally breaks it down into calculus and then like feeds it through a number generator and then spits out a grade for every category.
he's got like an algorithm working on this thing for 3 days. It's waiting for the number to spit out, and the rest of us are like, I'm writing it in Paint and MS Paint, and making my grades that way.
Remember those old school?
None of y'all can conclusively prove that I am not an uplifted AI using a face cam.
I just picture him in the back room with like, remember those computers that had the punch cards and he's like punching the cards and then sticking the cards in the giant supercomputer? That's pretty much how I think Stands.
Good old Uncle Aniac.
It's an actual theory out there that the whole internet is fake and that all the content creators are created by the government. Just so you guys know.
It could be true. You never know.
That could be a problem.
How do I even know that I'm real?
Where do I sign up for that program?
I mean, I am a
Is that a Twitch badge? All right.
Are you sure though, Crypt? Are you sure?
I am. Well, I kind of want to believe you about you being an AI just using a video skin, because I don't think that a human being could ever sculpt their goatee that perfect.
Oh, that's awesome.
You don't know. He's got some tools.
You know what? It never changes. My beard sometimes gets a little shaggy. Sometimes it's always the same.
It's on point.
I have the thing where genetically this is the only place hair grows on my face. So like I could not do like a Theric, a Crypt, or a Nathan. Like I am incapable of doing that. And this is coming off probably in the next few days because I will have lost the game of chicken with myself. I hate this. It's just I do it every once in a while to remind myself that shaving is the better option of the two evils.
Nice.
Been there.
All right. Well, let's move on with this grading because last time y'all wanted to go for like 3 hours on this grading. So we got to get this thing rolling. So we're going to go through each category and then we'll go around and then we'll just keep going down the list. So, Theric, you are up first. Grouping/rating. What is your grade and why?
Okay, so I'll tell you why the grade I gave it is first. First of all, grouping in this game didn't really feel necessary at all. I don't know why people would group if they weren't doing it just, to be social, to be with their friends, which is fine. But there was no real mechanical reason for us to be grouping. I didn't feel like it made a difference. Like even we were playing the dungeons on hard mode, and like we talked about during the streams, hard mode was pretty normal mode. Didn't feel like we were ever needed. There was no synergies between our classes. There was at no point did I like need, Drac, you to do one of your abilities. So mine was better. And, admittedly, we didn't get to the end game, which we'll talk about throughout this, I'm sure, why we didn't experience some things. But I didn't feel like there was no class interdependency, no synergies. I feel like in a lot of modern games, and this one, grouping and the content are very separated by a very hard line, right? Like you group if you want to, but the content is not really group content. So, it's a separate entity. And if you want to group, sure you can. It's symbolic just to make it an MMO to allow grouping. And I feel like that's a real disservice to the MMO genre. I feel like when you make grouping completely optional, it sort of ceases to be an MMO for me. And I said that when we were streaming a couple times, that I feel like this is just an MMO in title only. It's closer to some other types of games. It's closer to whatever. So yeah, it gets a triple F for me because I don't feel like grouping was even necessary. It was just optional. And we can do that in other games too. Like we were talking about Elden Ring before we went live here, and you can play with other people in that game. It's not required, but that's not an MMO. And I feel like that's the way it should be. So that's my grade.
Yeah, it's not just optional, it's not even incentivized as an optional activity.
Right.
And I think that was one of the things that got a lot of it.
I'm pretty sure I saw that one coming from Theric.
Yeah.
And what was the grade? What was the grade from there?
Triple
Triple
F
F.
minus.
Full F minus.
Flaming F minus right out of the gate.
Not flaming. We got to save the flaming. I got to leave a little ammunition in the chamber here. So no flaming.
Flaming is even worse. Yeah.
The ranger saving his special arrows for a different shot.
Exactly.
All right. So I'm up next. Grouping / rating. Oh my goodness. I think I'm going to be the most positive person on this grading thing, but there is no defending the grouping / rating in this game. There's just not. It's awful. And 4 people grouping is the absolute worst. Please, if you make an MMO, don't do that. 5 is the bare minimum. 6 is the gold standard, okay? 6, not 5, not 4, definitely not 4. 4 is not an MMO. 4 is a co-op. That's what it is. 5 is you could begin to have an MMO. 6 is the gold standard. 8 would be wonderful, but I digress.
We got a mix of that in Final Fantasy too.
Yeah,
4
dude.
and
I hammered Final Fantasy for it as as well. I do not like MMOs with 4 people in it. It just doesn't feel like a group to me.
Just
So-
for clarification, he's talking about Final Fantasy 14.
14. Yeah, sorry.
Just
14.
for clarification.
Thank you. Nathan's saving me from YouTube comments later.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure Tetsu's in the chat or will be in the chat, and he'll jump all over that one.
Yes. So for me, I'm not going to give it no. You know what? I have to. It's got to get the triple F minus. The grouping for me was the absolute worst part of this game. It just was, and there's just no getting around it. It's just bad.
It's just the essence. It's the essence of an MMO, right? Like it's just what makes an MMO an MMO, and it has to be good. Yeah. The thing with Final Fantasy, the comparison there, and why that is okay a little bit, is because there is interdependency between the classes and the groups. Like I felt like that there was definitely a reason to have. I mean, there's a reason to have a healer, a tank, and 2 DPSs or whatever the group makeup is, because you need all that. There was none of that in this game. There was none of that.
Right. It was rough. Cryptbox?
So I gave it the score because I thought a single F was the lowest you could.
Would you like to alter your grade?
You call me a noob if you want to the grading structure. That's fine. But I gave it an F. And I'm gonna echo a lot of what my counterparts are saying, is that grouping is an afterthought. And even though I have seen and talked to people who have grouped up in the in the end game, like 50 plus, I don't feel that is very conducive of a community or an MMO to put all the grouping content in the back of the game. Um, and I think I had mentioned with like other Eastern style MMOs like Blade and Soul and Elion, because I played both of those. I didn't play very far in Blade and Soul, but in Elion, it was exactly the same. Like you did not need to group up at all, and even like the mechanics of it kind of forced you to not, because the experience got split so bad that you got nothing from it by grouping up. So I think it's just a little bit of the region where it comes from. So yeah, F on group and rating. I didn't experience the rating because I didn't get the 50, but I did see people grouping up, and it was very similar to what we see in some games where it's just a zerg, a mob of characters moving around, killing things, and you get maybe a couple abilities off, and then it's dead. Uh, so yeah, F.
All right, Stands of Fire.
Okay, so before we really get started, I do want to have a minor tangent, because we're going to be tearing the shit out of this game overall. And with games, especially stuff that live under the MMO umbrella as a whole, and Lost Ark specifically, there's going to be people with some wildly divergent ideas and takes on a lot of these things. I'm going to do my best to not try and state subjective opinions as objective facts, but I mean, we're all a bunch of game nerds here, so take everything with the spirit in which it's given. If any of y'all are Lost Ark fans, because we're going to be tearing this game a new one tonight. But if what I want is an orange, and I ask for a piece of fruit and somebody hands me an apple, doesn't mean that an apple is objectively a bad fruit. It means that it wasn't what I wanted. It doesn't fulfill the criteria that I want out of a fruit. So, all that said, grouping. Oh my god. Grouping in Lost Ark, Crypt and Theric and Drac all have nailed it, and I know Nathan's going to say the same thing. Grouping is functionally not only optional in the stuff we were doing, but is just not incentivized. And it's one thing if you have early game group content that you can solo through, but if you do it in a group, you can raise the challenge, and you can make it a fun group experience to really start learning how the game is going to play later on. Because that's what it's supposed to be there for. It's supposed to teach you how to work with other people as you build your toolkits. It really didn't do that. Part of it might simply be the fact that we are playing a game where the content we're playing through is years old at this point, and it's kind of like considered the 1 to 15 in most MMOs that are on their third expansion pack. So it's been very streamlined to push us through it. But basically, we didn't have our full toolkits to actually really set up class interdependency, group play, nothing. It's just everybody's some flavor of a DPS, and we waltz through the place steamrolling stuff. The only saving grace that kept this one from being an F for me was looking at the abilities that we get and start to get as we go on. I can see the building blocks for some really cool uses of class mixes later on. There are so many abilities that do things like knock enemies up in the air or knock them down. And I think they're setting up the ability to have a group comp where you have one person potentially whose job is to set states and have the rest of the group be state exploiters. And you could do some really cool stuff if we had more of the toolkit unlocked. But this is a D for what we played, and it just scrapes by into a D.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of these categories are going to have the same refrain that you're saying, Stans, is that there may all be all these things at the end game, but I don't want to play long enough to get to the end game because it's an incredible investment of time on a game that isn't fun up to that point. Like, this whole logic of doing these things it's never made sense to me. And I don't understand why people can waste 60 hours of their life to get to the fun,
And I work with people who play Lost Ark and are heavily into it. So I've had a lot of side conversations with people who play the game at a much higher level than we played. And the refrain from them was, "Oh, dude, you can just power through stuff. You can get to 50 in like a day if you just go hard." That's not what I play games for.
Yeah,
like I get that that's what you did so that you could get to the content, but that's never what I'm going to do in an MMO.
Yeah, I heard that same thing from a buddy of mine. He's like level 55 or something like that, and he's been playing it religiously since it came out. And he actually asked me to like switch to his server to game up with him. I was like, all right, I guess I'll do it. Since most of the people that I'm playing with now are leaving the game.
You may as well.
Yeah,
I guess they have.
He said to me that I can get from like 1 all the way to 50 in 6 hours if I only do the main storyline. And
It's the same thing I was told. And like, no.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't even know I don't think that's true, but
I know it's true because I know people who have done it. But
yeah, okay.
that would be a
button.
terrible way to play.
G button, skip everything, skip the cutscene, you're skipping everything. That's not.
Yeah,
I think that's what I did anyway.
Sounds like a great way to play a game.
to segue into the questing conversation.
No, we're getting to the questing. Save
it. We need the coup de grace. Nathan, go ahead.
All right,
bury that axe, Nathan.
Napalm.
All right. Listen, so you guys might be actually shocked. I think everybody's gonna be a little shocked. I had a lot of fun the last couple of weeks playing multiplayer in Lost Ark. You know why? Because I didn't freaking play it at all in the last couple of weeks. It's bad. I mean, it's really bad. It's one of those where it's just like, dude, just give us some NPCs to run with. It's the same thing, right? Like, give us a couple of NPCs to run through, or even better yet, just don't even pretend. Just let us play single player all the way till we get to whatever point you're going to allow some real multiplayer. I'll use the fruit thing too. So if fruit equals MMO, then I feel like they hand us a straight lemon, right? Like
Nice.
there is, it's sour, it's gross. I couldn't take it at all. I did a couple of multiplayer dungeons and was immediately like, oh my, this is how it's going to be. And thankfully, in this case, for the first time ever, only 4 people could play, and I didn't have to even continue playing the game.
I fell on that grenade for you, Nathan.
You're welcome. Appreciate it. It was the multiplayer aspect is to the point where, imagine if when you're a kid, you're not allowed to have fun yet. They're like, well, you can have fun when you're a grown up. You just got to survive
exactly what it is.
and tread through awful garbage shit until you're 18 years old, and then you can have some fun. That's kind of the way that kind of game approach is, where it's like, hey, we do have fun multiplayer, but first slog through this garbage and eventually you can have fun. Like, it's just bad. And I want to say one more thing. Elden Ring is not an MMO, but it does have multiplayer, and I'm not a big fan of its multiplayer. But something I've noticed while playing Elden Ring is I'm like, dude, this actually is the same experience as playing an MMO, except for the other players are ghosts, right? Like, you still see other players running around. They might see you too, but you're a ghost and you're playing by yourself, and maybe for a boss encounter, you load up some random people to play with. Like, dude, this is what's the difference these days? It isn't. Why not? It's an MMO. Because it's the same thing with these kind of games.
Yep.
So triple F minus.
Okay.
Triple F minus.
I do want to like plug in something. If they did not have the MMO attached to this, I think it would be just fine, because then it would be looked at under the lens of like an action RPG, which
Right.
Diablo
It's a
3,
very competent action RPG.
Yeah, totally.
very great action RPG, not an MMO.
If you're
Because
looking for a Diablo style game that you just want to play through, and that's what you like to do, then dude, this is it, man.
Yeah,
Or if they just came out and told you play the first 50 levels as a solo game prequel. Don't look
but-
at grouping until you
Yeah.
get to point. Yeah.
But hey man, they labeled it as an MMO, so we played it as an MMO, and that's how we're
Yeah.
going to grade it as an MMO.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
You,
Exactly.
you can say you're a great dancer, but if you only dance hip hop and you go to a country club, line dance club,
It's
They're
100%.
you're not going to be a great dancer. That's all I got.
You will get a triple F minus at the
It's 100%. All right. Well, now on to the second best category of the night. And I know Theric is going to just love this one.
Light the fires.
Theric,
Light the fires.
How was that Lost Ark questing for you, sir?
Hold on, we're gonna just end the stream. Hold on.
Thank you. Good night. That's right.
Good night, everybody.
I'm gonna go ahead and put this triplet of mine right here.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna get my arrows out of my quiver. I'm gonna light them on fire because it's so mindless. The questing in this game. We were trying to grind to get to level 30, 32. I did 3 hours, and I didn't read a single word. I never had to think about. The reason I could do that is because I didn't have to think about anything I was doing, because it was go here, talk to this person, now go over here, talk to this person, quest complete, now talk to this person. At one point, there's a couple times where you're picking up a stone and moving it from one edge of the screen to the other edge of the screen.
But only one stone. There's only move one thing, which I thought was hilarious.
Right. Like that's exactly. That's just a perfect example of what this game is doing. And like, man, you gotta make me engage some way. There's no, it's so boring and completely unengaging. Like a quest is not a story. Like this game does a story, and that's like, here's the tale we're telling, and your quest is to click buttons to reveal the story. Okay, that's not a quest. A quest involves some sort of puzzle, some sort of obstacle to overcome, some sort of goal that is difficult or at least challenging to achieve. Talking to people is not challenging, and Final Fantasy does this too, and I don't get it. So it's awful. It's lame. I wouldn't really say there even are quests in this game. It doesn't feel like a quest game. So triple F minus, flaming F minus, burn it down. It's awful.
It gets a 0.
It's a 0.
Infinity 0.
Crypt has moved away from the letters even at this point and moved into numbers.
Oh my goodness. I thought that we had reached the lowest of the low with MMO questing, and I was mistaken. This is the absolute worst questing I have ever done in any MMO ever. And again, I'm going to be the positive guy tonight, just FYI. I already know this is how it's going to go, but the questing is garbage. It's just absolutely awful. It's not even that it's like worse than mind numbing. It's like I puts me to sleep, and just like I'm irritated at the quest. That's what really happened, right? I'm
Is that
angry.
your final answer, Derek? The quest is triple Z.
I'm so irritated that I have to do this dumb thing that I refuse to read the quest text, and it was awful, just the most horrible questing ever. So I am also going to go triple F minus, and we're just going to lay that down right there. Go ahead, Gripbox. You are up.
Again, when I graded this, I thought F was the lowest. I won't change my answer because you give me a scale, I stay within the parameters of the scale. 8 and F, so that's what I'm doing. But yeah, if I could, all right. So to articulate even more, you know how pi is like 3.129999999.
3.1414.
Yeah, that math. For me, if the grade was a negative and it went on forever to keep going negative, I would give it that, but I'm just giving it an F. It is just so terrible. I once I caught on to how the quests were structured, I skipped everything and I watched the cutscenes because I'm a visuals person. Cutscenes were really fucking good, so I loved them. And that's where I got my story, and that's where I found the interest in the story from. Was that? But quests, nope.
Yeah, they don't do anything to like, you know, bring you into the world at all. Like it was very detached from the world. And I read, like, when we first played our first stream or second stream, I did read some of the quests and I tried to like get into it, but it became so quickly detached from what was, I don't know. There was just no connection to the gameplay and it was disappointing.
So what I experience is gonna be slightly different than what you guys experienced because I played in the closed technical beta of this, right? So the beginning portion of the game where you're working with the prologue and you go to the island, you work through and you're looking for the fragment piece of the Lost Ark, that wasn't there. Every class had its own individual prologue. If you started out as like the assassin rogue class, you went with your team of assassins into a Castlevania-like castle, and you had to slink around in the shadows, jumping chandelier to chandelier, fighting things as you went, and it revealed like cutscenes and very valuable lore and story. And you, at the end of it, you picked your class, and then it did that for each of them. For the mage, you started out as like an acolyte, and you know, went and you dealt with like some elementals, and you did like some elemental attunement and things like that. That was substance, but they threw all that stuff away for all the classes and streamlined it and made everybody go to like Noob Island to get everybody to the regular game so they could speed you through that to get to the end game at level 50. So it was like some serious design choices, I think, that they handled very poorly. I think if they had kept the class identities there with the individual prologues, we would have a slightly different conversation than what we're having now.
Yeah, I think that would. I mean, for me, I think that would have improved it a little bit. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe a D. It was still pretty bad.
Yeah.
Stands of Fire.
All right. Go ahead and put an F up for me because this gets a hard F. You know, we talk about fetch quests. We talk about go talk to this asshole quests, which literally, you know,
There's a lot of assholes.
there's a dude 15 feet away from me. Can you go talk to him and then come right back to me? And every MMO has that to some extent. They have those utterly filler activities you perform. This game took that to a whole new level.
This game lives there.
Yeah, I have a lot of tolerance for that if it is being done for reasons that, like, okay, cool, we're moving the story forward, we're getting interactions, I'm the dude who reads quest text, especially the first time I go through a new game. This game had me hammering G as fast as I could to skip every single thing that came up. This game's questing felt more like I am playing a visual novel than an MMO because there was no choice, no impact, no anything. This is a hard F. If you get me to skip quest dialogue, you have failed spectacularly.
Yeah,
It's true.
Yeah. My G key is officially broken.
Dude, it's 100%.
The G is actually a little worn out. You can't quite read it anymore.
Yeah, but for most of us, you know, we're used to WASD and space being, you know, nice and shiny and worn. This game started doing that to the G key as well.
But the crazy thing is we have 2 people in this group of people that play the MMO 101 that love the quests and love the lore. Like, it's not me. Like, I'm never the quest guy. Like, I almost in every game I try to fast forward through all the quests. I'm living on the coattails of Theric for quests and lore in Pantheon, like literally. But dude, this game just made it brutal.
Sorry, Drac. I'm just going to interrupt
go
for 1 second, just because what Stan said is totally accurate. Like I have a tolerance for it too. Lord of the Rings Online, all games do these little silly talk to this person. You know, there's some filler quests in every game we play. There's no doubt about it, and we've got a tolerance for it. We can take it. You know, but when that's your only deal, you know, that's the problem, man. That's a big problem.
Nathan, I know that you loved questing in this game, so.
Yeah, actually, I got some more great news. I actually did enjoy a quest while playing this game, and it was the one my wife gave me to take out the trash so I could quit questing in this game, right? So, like, I would rather do real life chores than do the quest in this game. It actually, I got to be honest, I feel sorry. It makes me feel really bad that there's an actual human being out there who wrote the dialogue, right? Like, they actually spent time of their life that they'll never get back, and nobody's going to read that shit ever, right? Like, that's really actually super depressing. And another thing that when I was playing this game I thought of was that, like, dude, they made me think that WoW, like, BFA questing was good. You know what I mean? Like, it was so bad that I was like, dude, I'd rather quest in, like, BFA. Like, this is really bad. I would say that the experience is like playing a mobile game. You know, like, everything's super, like, it's right there. It's just a waste of time. Like, right there, go there, turn it in, get your stupid little reward, move on. And there's a lot of them too, and there'll be like a little side quest. Then side quest is like super conveniently right there as well, and it's just and it feels like a mobile game. I mean, that's exactly what it felt like to me, which I hate mobile games.
That's a good point. It did really feel like a mobile game.
And that's not good, because mobile games are designed to be shitty on purpose because you're doing it while you're doing something important, right? Like you're at work or, you know, whatever, and you can just shittily play a game and not have to care or pay attention or anything.
AFK Arena.
This is a PC game where, like, you know, like, you should be invested in it, and it's an MMO, and, you know, you made a story, right? Like, you want people to care? Like, I don't understand. Like, why waste your time then? Why not just not have any dialogue and just, like, they speak a language you don't understand or something, you know? And it's just like, blah, blah, like a Banjo-Kazooie or something, right? Where they just, blah, and then there's your markers. You don't need to know what they said. You just go do whatever the map tells you. So yeah, triple F minus, awful. Worst I've ever encountered, actually, in any genre ever.
Wow.
The score that I gave it, the F, there's like one thing that I experienced that I thought was absolutely spectacular quest wise, but it wasn't enough to change my opinion. It's like you take a stone and you throw it into a lake. It'll make a ripple for a few feet, but that's about it. It doesn't change anything. But the quest segment nearing level 30, where you meet the prince and you're going to reclaim the castle, and you have like a Helm's Deep type battle and all of that. That was actually very well done. Like, I was so happy to get to something really meaty like that.
It was a good little set piece, but it was like you said, that was a stone dropped into the water.
Yeah.
I like the Helm's Deep battle, but I still didn't read any of the quests.
But no, Nathan, your comparison to a mobile game, one of the notes I wrote down was that the quests were always so close to the quest giver that they were almost on screen where you went to do them.
They were most of the time.
I was like, dude, bro, he's right over there. Just yell at him.
That's right. Don't tell him yourself.
when you brought that up, design like a mobile game, like, yeah, that clicked. It's like, oh, yeah.
It's totally true. Yeah. All right. We made it through the 2. I knew that we're going to be brutal. And we're moving on to some happier things. At least for me, I'm happier. Spells, class, spells, and skills. So I think that I was really happy with my class. I like the magician sorcerer class. I did not like being locked into female. Please don't do that to your MMO players. That is not an MMO feature. If I'm playing an MMO, I should get to choose my gender. But the spells and the skills are really the highlight for me. I love the fact that I could customize them. I super love the fact that I could change ice spells into fire spells. That was so cool for me. And I'd never seen that in any other, like, really MMO or any other, even action RPG game. And I just, like, that fact alone really, like, highlighted the game for me. And it was why I kind of kept playing and was still having fun playing it. Because I like going in there and tinkering with it. And, oh, what happens if I change this one? And what happens if I change this one? And it was just the effects and the way that it changed the spell every time I put another point into a different spell. That was just super interesting to me. And I think it was super well done. And so oh, wait a minute. Derek was supposed to go first. Anyway, I'm taking over.
No, it's all good.
So we're going to start out with a positive. So so I thought it was really well done. The spells and skills. So I'm giving this, it's probably going to be its lone A from everyone, but I'm giving it an A because I love the customization and the variety of spells and skills. So all right, now Theric, sorry.
Oh, okay, good. Well, hey, no, I think you did a good job. Actually, you said a lot of the things that I would have said. I think it was okay. I liked my class too. I enjoyed the focus with the bow. I enjoyed a couple of the skills I found were pretty effective. The arrow, the twisting arrow that you could sort of, like you said, change its elemental makeup was cool. I liked my hawk friend that I could summon and then use throughout the course of the battle when it would build up in its ability. Yeah, like the makings are there for some nice class skills and abilities, and the creativity when it comes to where you put your points in and how it changes things and where you can get things to a really cool place. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, I don't feel like it mattered really which ones I was using at any given time, to be honest. I mean, I think a lot of the battles I was just using them whenever they were available and sort of rolling my finger over the buttons on the mouse to use what was there. But that may just be a factor of the fact that the content we were doing, it was early and mid-level content. Maybe we killed things a little more slowly because of that. So that's cool. That's good stuff. And I don't have a problem with it. I didn't think there was anything that really I found super intriguing. Like I would make me want to keep playing it. Not enough to keep playing it anyway, but I give it some credit where credit's due, and the class design seemed cool. I only played the one class. I don't know if you guys played other classes than what we did on stream, but the one that I chose was nice, and I enjoyed it. So I'm gonna give it a D. Maybe it could be a little higher, but yeah, I'll stick with my D.
All right. For Fox.
For the 101, I played the Scrapper, and that's the class that I played the most of. And it was just so much fun to play. Like the skills, they work together in a way where you had to understand what each skill did. That way you can come up with, certain combinations of things. Um, the way that you put points in and unlocking each of the 3 different tiers to change those spells. And then even like laterally in those tiers, you could pick a different way for that spell to function. So you had the base skill, which did a thing. And then the first tier, you had like 3 options. And based on which one you picked, it changed the visual graphics of the skill and what it did. And then tier 2, it had the first tier, and then you changed it just a little bit more. And I think I showed it on stream one day as I stepped through the different tiers, where the ground pound was just a ground pound, and then it was a ground pound with fire, then it was a ground pound with like a bunch of like stalagmites coming out of the ground and explosion and everything. I really enjoyed that. I loved it, loved it. And I even played like all of the other classes only to like about like level 10 or 12 in the closed technical beta. And I thought everything about the classes was just really rounded out and packaged. I feel like the classes were the focal point of this game, and the other things that were picking apart, those were the afterthoughts. But they really wanted to focus on the classes. So I gave classes, spells, and skills an A+. I thought it was great.
Yeah, that came across during the stream crypt. I remember you showing us the different effects, the cratering effect of that one skill that your class had. So I think you demonstrated that pretty well, and I can appreciate where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, when that was all the way up, it was basically, okay, I have now punched a portal to hell into the ground.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And don't we all want to do that? That's exactly what we want, right?
Yeah, the punchiness of the abilities. You hear
And this using the skills felt really good too. Like I pressed the button and I felt like I was using it, right? Like it made sense when I pushed the button what happened on the screen. So all right, stands in the fire.
All right, so kind of like Crypt, I actually played a lot of classes. I started with the Soul Fist mostly and swapped to the Paladin to kind of have to see what kind of support we could really get, which ended up being a little bit of support and not a lot in the toolkit just at the levels we were playing, but still those shields are pretty nice. I knock points because every class is some form of a DPS class, basically. There are 2 classes that have support functions, but they're still primarily DPS class. But the design of them was so good, and the skills all felt really impactful and useful. Theric, I know you were saying that on your archer type character, you could more or less just keyboard mash and get through. On the Paladin, I actually had to be much more thoughtful about what I was using when, because some of my stuff was the up close, some of it AoE, some of it was movement skills, some of it was mid-range damage, some of it was the shielding. So it was very much the same on the Soul Fist as well as the gunslinger type characters that I played. And one thing I really, really appreciate, and I think this is, again, a benefit of we're playing a game that is in a very mature state before it got localized. It's had a lot of time put into these classes as well as the classes that we don't have yet. To a large extent, the class choice and the skills you load the class with really drove how you needed to play and approach situations. Just in the different classes that I played. So I'm gonna give classes, spells, and skills a really solid B. This was a high point of the game. It was well designed.
Yeah, you using your shields throughout when we were playing stands was something that I noticed, and it was the one thing where I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. Okay, like that's a group thing. Like
that's a group thing. We did a group thing.
And you notice it, right?
We were excited.
I was excited. Got me going. Look, group work.
What else you got? Level 50. Fuck.
Yeah. Not for another 20 levels.
I think the next support ability that I could unlock was someplace in the 40s. I would unlock the second shielding type skill.
Yeah, I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think it needed a few more skills. Right? I feel like there wasn't that many options for an MMO. I think, and that's where it starts to fade into an action RPG, right?
Yeah.
It didn't have as many core skills, but the ability to choose those specializations and really kind of bend what you're doing with the core skills, I think was their solution for not having a bunch of different base skills.
That's fair. All right, Nathan, spells and skills.
Well, I'm going to grade this completely selfishly. So I played a paladin, and I love paladin for very specific reasons, right? And never have I played a paladin and been like, "Ooh, I can do great, awesome AOE damage," right? And like the paladin felt very like damagey. It was like this. Obviously, not as much damage or as big of numbers as others, but it felt completely like, dude, I have a lot of power here and I can smash some stuff, right? And the few dungeons I did run, I was able to like, and that's the way it kind of felt like. There's so much damage going on with every class. It was like, who can melt 100 mobs the fastest, right?
Yeah.
And it felt like a race when you're playing multiplayer. And even as a paladin, I was still melting mobs with my pure damage abilities. And that just doesn't feel good to me. Paladins are not damage dealers. I've never played a paladin and felt like a damage dealer, right? Like, they do some of the worst damage ever, right? Like, it's kind of a meme of like, nobody wants to watch PvP 1 versus 1, a paladin versus a paladin, because it will go on for freaking ever, right? So it's like, I hated it. I thought it was really bad, and I only played the paladin, but I didn't enjoy at all that, like, I had burst damage and AoEs and all this crazy stuff. I didn't even get to the point, if I had a shield ability, I didn't even know about it, to be honest. I think I had a shield thing, but I think it felt like, from what I remember, it was damage. But I might be getting confused.
No,
anyway,
I know the skill. You probably got the one where you throw a ranged thing out onto the ground and you get a shield while you're channeling it.
Sounds right.
You get that one before you get your actual group shield.
There you go. So yeah. I hated it a lot. Triple F minus. I didn't like it. I thought it felt very way too like, where's the class fantasy, right? Like, where's the like, what everybody thinks a paladin is. So I hated it.
Yeah.
All right. Derek's favorite section: player versus player. And just FYI, I did allow people to opt out on this one because I know not everybody's a player versus player.
Oh, I'm glad to hear you say that, Drac, because my notes are basically like whatever in quotes a bunch of times.
So we're opting out. NA?
Well,
or you want to say something?
I mean, from the very little that we did, we tried to do it. I think we would all agree it was over-designed in terms of what you had to do to participate in it. Like,
oh my goodness, that's gonna be
you can't just walk in and do PvP. Like, I know we could duel. Like, I know we had some fun sort of just doing one-on-ones with each other. But like the structured PvP, like, does it really need to be that complicated? Like, why can't you just let us be a team and go in and say, hey, what's up? Like, I don't know, man.
Every other MMO lets us go in and get our butts kicked all over the place. Yeah, what's wrong with Lost Ark?
Dark Age of Camelot, a game from 25 years ago, had better PvP. Like,
that's still the best PvP.
And we got our asses kicked, and that was fun.
We got destroyed. There were people we couldn't even damage.
Yeah, no, it was so good. So, I mean, yeah, whatever. At the end of the day, it's whatever. I didn't try it, so.
What are we giving it an NA, or you want a triple F minus, or where are you going with this?
I'd give it an NA, but I leave it to the group.
All right. Perfect. We tried to do the group PvP. And as Theric said, it was super over designed. Also, group PvP is 3 people, but a group in a dungeon is 4 people. Now, come on. Like, I'm grouping with my buddies. I've got my 4 friends, and now I have to leave one out. Like, that's the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, we already picked stands to leave out.
Yeah, it's like
I was volunteering for that one.
We gotta vote somebody off the island. We're going Survivor style here, like this, like that, like pick a number. I mean, even if it is 4, even if you're going to go against the tried and true measure of what a good group in an MMO is, at least stick with it. You can't change your PvP number for your, as opposed to your like group dungeon number. That's just bad design.
Yeah.
However, I did dual Crit Fox. That was kind of fun. He kicked my butt. But also, if you're gonna set up duels and stuff, you shouldn't be able to use potions. That's a big error.
He'll beat you.
Because
even though
Crit
you
Fox
had
was
that
like,
cut.
"How come you're healing all the time?" I'm over there eating potions.
I don't know, the button's right there. I'm just hitting it.
Like, it didn't stop me. So yeah, that's pretty bad. But you know, it was kind of fun. So I'm gonna give it a D for PvP. I mean, I think I would have given it a good grade had it let us in and let us PvP. But because I think it would have been fun. But it wouldn't let us. And then you had to do that whole system. There was like this whole different system than what was the actual game that you had to like learn. And it never taught you like what to do. And so it was just like this. And I remember we were all like, okay, let's go. And Crypt was like, are you guys through this thing already? And I was like, what thing?
Yeah, if we had known ahead of time that we needed to, stop and go, take 15 minutes or whatever and go through and set our PvP builds and specs up for the stream, we might have had a totally different experience. But having that sprung on you, that did not sit well.
Well, it probably goes back to we weren't never reading any of the quest text, so they probably told us at some point, but we never actually read it because we were so just like done with
Hamstringed
reading.
yourself, Lost Ark. You hamstringed yourself.
So I'm gonna give it a D. It was kind of fun. Crypt, our resident PvP expert.
So, I went through. And I didn't do the PvP during the 101 or before. But after we wrapped the last game night, I went back and I rounded out, the loadout. And it only took, I want to say like 5 or 6 minutes. I think we were just, kind of like shell shocked with like having to do it. So we just like, all right, we only got about like 20 minutes left in the stream. We're gonna just like shelf this and move on. So I went back and I did it and I jumped into it, and the PvP was actually fun. I went in solo queue and I came in like second and third place a couple times. But everybody else had like way better gear, way higher PvP rank, and I still came in second and third. But I was on the bottom a couple times. So I did like 4 matches. So I was like bottom. I was 6th place once, 5th place another time, and then I jumped up to third, and then I jumped up to second. So the more I did it, the higher I got. And my honest opinion is that I gave it a C plus. I think that's a fair score because I knocked off 2.25 letter grades for the cumbersome way of setting up the loadouts. But once you get past that, it was actually kind of fun doing the PvP in the arena. So yeah, it's different game to game because some games will make you do the loadouts, others won't. Guild Wars 1 was very PvP oriented, but you didn't necessarily need a very complex system to do a loadout. You just did the drag and drop of your abilities and you were good to go. Or you put on different gear, or you click through a few menus and things. I felt like I said enough. Like I knocked off a couple letter grades, and it's about average PvP wise.
Okie dokie. Mr. Stands of Fire.
I'm going to be an NA on this one. Didn't really participate in it. I've watched on stream some people doing the 3v3 arenas, and they look interesting, but 100% it ain't my bag.
Let's see, Stans has amnesia because I stomped all over his butt.
Well, yeah, the one duel was Crypt proving that he is much better at action RPGs than I am.
All right, our resident DAOC PvP expert, Nathan Napalm. PvP.
Yeah, so I do have an opinion on this because I do like PvP when it's done right, which it almost never is. And this was this to me is the cheapest and dumbest way to do PvP, right? So it's arenas, 3 versus 3 or 6-player free for all. And I think there might be a 1 versus 1 and 2 versus 2. But you know, that's like the lazy cop out way to do PvP in an MMO. Ooh, how massive! How massive! 6 people can participate, right? Like, bro, that should be included in like Dark Souls, right? Like 6 people, bro. You need a server for that, right? Like, that's so cheap and just generic and horrible, right? And the reason you do that is because it's easier for you to make things more balanced, and it's also easier to develop, and it doesn't take much effort, and all that kind of thing. So when you make a real PvP in an MMO, it needs to at least feel massive, right? I think Elder Scrolls Online does a much better job of PvP. Where you can go to Cyrodiil. You also have arenas as well, because I know some people enjoy that, and I do too sometimes, right? Like that's a side dish of PvP. That's not the main entree of PvP. You need some massive kind of like you really feel like you're part of something huge, right? And I feel like with the way that Lost Ark was made, they could have done some really cool like castle sieges and stuff like that. And really kind of won over the people who enjoy PvP sometimes or all the time or whatever. If PvP is your thing, then this is not a good option for you, in my opinion. So triple F minus.
Remember when we played Warhammer? How much fun was that PvP?
Yeah.
Remember trying to take those castles and doing scenarios and stuff? That's fun. Like, that's good stuff.
Even when you're getting your butt kicked, you still feel like you're part of something bigger, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I played Warhammer as like my main MMO for like 1.5 years when it came out, and that was like some of the best PvP I had ever played was in Warhammer. And then like I don't think you guys ever really did a whole lot of the dungeons. You did like the level 13 dungeon in the castle, maybe.
Yeah.
But I did all of the upper end dungeons, and those were some really spectacular dungeons.
Oh yeah, Warhammer has some cool dungeons. Yeah. I remember them. They were so good.
And Nathan said it, but I just want to repeat it, right? Because it's so good. You can't forget the MMO, the massively multiplayer online piece of it when you do PvP. Arenas and duels is not MMO PvP. We want massively multiplayer online PvP. If you're going to do it. If you're not going to do it, then don't do it. But if you are, you have to make it massively multiplayer online. So I think that's a fantastic point. That I don't want to do shooter 3v3 tournament style stuff on my MMO, because that's not what this is. It's not what it's supposed to be. MMO is supposed to be its own genre. Quit taking stuff from shooters and you know, that type of other games and sticking it in MMOs and calling it what it's not.
I just want to point out too in chat, there's a lot of talk going on about balance, right? And how good PvP is naturally unbalanced, right? And this isn't that. This is the opposite. And it just it reminds me of, you know, when PvP became an esport, right? Everything had to become competitively balanced. Everything had to be fair, and everything had to be, you know, from a sporting standpoint. There's the same level playing field, and I think that's what's going on here. So,
dude, let the shooters and League of Legends have their esports. That's not what we want in our MMOs.
Yeah, I just want to say that like PvP is the art of fighting other players, right? So it shouldn't be fair. It shouldn't be, right? Like it doesn't make sense for that to be fair. You're fighting other real people. What makes you think that would be fair? Would you, you know, like I wouldn't assume any fight is fair, right? Like it should be fair during PvE type things, right? Like no class should be completely useless. But like PvP, man, it's how are you going to balance that to be fair with everybody unless it's cookie cutter garbage, you know? Like there's going to be unfair things happen to you in PvP. That's the fun, right? So
I agree with you guys. I do want to caveat very minutely, though. I agree with you wholeheartedly. It should not be balanced or 100% fair. I do think that if person A is playing like a druid character, and they're going against a cleric, the cleric might have lower damage output but better heals, where the druid might have more damage but weaker heals. They're uneven but fair because they're excelling at different things. And if they were to meet each other, it would be fair and balanced, but imbalanced at the same time, if that makes any sense.
yeah, like rock, paper, scissors, right? Is that what you're
Yeah.
trying to say? Like
Yeah.
this one is good against that one, but get his butt kicked by that one, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I agree with that. Yeah.
yeah, it's fire beats air,
Everything.
water beats, or
Fire beats everything. Just FYI.
No, it doesn't.
water beats fire.
All right, let's move forward. Sound and graphics, Derek.
It's a good looking game. Hard to argue that, and we all commented on it when we saw it. The transition scenes in engine are nice. They did a really good job with that. It's pretty. It's a really nice looking game. The only thing I noticed the first night we were playing is that your camera control is pretty limited in terms of how far you can zoom out. We all felt like we were a little close in, but I mean, it was a minor gripe. Yeah, I mean, other than to say it just looks really nice. The music is nice. I like that you can, you saw the name of the song playing when you first loaded up the game. I thought that was just a nice little thing. And there's a lot of ambient noise in the atmosphere that I thought did a good job of sort of conveying the environment you're in. The musical themes of the game, I think, were kind of strange, but I also kind of liked them a little bit. Just playing your instrument as your recall is a strange thing. And then the other way that you learn sheet music, and it's like a tool to escape the dungeon or to transport to a certain area. I appreciate that, and I think more games need to incorporate music as part of their, sort of the something, a defining thing in their game, I guess. But I don't have any complaints with the graphics and sounds. I thought they were very both enjoyable, and it's an isometric game. It's not a 3D game, so you're looking at it. It's a little bit of a different scale, I guess you might say. I gave it a B+.
Okay, so for myself, sorry, I'm filling out the little thing here.
I was stunned silence from my
Drac
B+
is
grade.
distracted.
Isometric. I was trying to
Like
figure
everybody
out
everybody was so surprised. They're
that
like,
you
"What?"
gave something a B-
Yeah.
for Lost Ark.
I think some people choked on their drink when they heard that.
Dude, I thought the graphics were super smooth. I thought they were well done. For the view that it have, which is isometric, which is not my favorite. I thought it was well done. I really struggled with the mouse movement to begin with. I wanted my WASD, right? And then so the first 4 hours, I kept casting spells when I wanted to move, and that was annoying. But Crypt told me to just tough it out, and eventually I would adapt to it, and I did. And so that's good. That even though the game, I wanted to do my own thing, I was able to adapt to it, and it wasn't that difficult. But the graphics looked really good. The cutscenes were good. When people spoke, even though I really wasn't listening to them, it was well done. I gotta give it I'm gonna go with a solid B+ as well. I think for looking good, and everything was smooth, and it just ran really well, and so I think it's just a B+. Solid graphics and sound. Cripox.
I'm a music head. I love sound. I do all kinds of things revolving around sound. And the sound for me is like one of those key aspects that really like pulls you into a game, right? Like in terms of like playing other MMOs, if you're running along and the graphics are great, cool. But if you're running along and you hear like birds chirping, the wind, like rustling of leaves and stuff, that yanks you into the environment. Um, it didn't have all of those nuances that I mentioned, but the things that really pulled me in was like running through the city and hearing the conversations of like the NPCs that are in the area. Uh, that was really cool. I liked hearing that, even though their conversations really didn't change, but it was nice to hear those as you're passing by. Uh, and the graphics, loved them. I love the transitions of all the cutscenes and the dungeons and uh, interacting with the environment was very pleasing to me. Uh, I loved jumping ledge to ledge. I loved climbing things. It was just very awesome. I loved it. I gave it an A, not an A plus or anything, just a flat A.
Okay. Stands apart.
I mean, I'm gonna basically echo a lot of stuff that everybody else has said so far. And I think again, this is one of those places where the game benefits from having had so much time and polish before our localized version of it. Is we're getting a product that has had a lot of potential art passes done on a lot of these things. I agree 100% with Crypt. Environmental sounds will drag you into a game and really put you in the place. And the game doesn't have a whole lot of like ambient environmental audio, but what they have is so well done that I think it makes up for that. Especially the pieces that got me were when we were in some of those dungeons and you would hear like the cave sounds echoing off in the distance, and you would hear stones crumbling as you got close to ledges, and all those little touches. um, Another thing I really appreciated was that as we went zone to zone and dungeon to dungeon, they really put a lot of care into making things look distinct and all fit where we were at the time. You could tell, like, this isn't an asset imported from 3 maps back. This is something that belongs in the map, in the dungeon, in the whatever we're in here, and it fits there aesthetically as well as just feel wise. So it squeaked just out of the B's and into an A for me. I think that the care that they put into making things distinct and fitting their environments was what pushed it just over into an A.
Yeah, you know what? And I forgot to mention that too, that we didn't see a lot of recycled mobs. Almost everything, everywhere we went, it was new, it was different. It wasn't like they recolored things or like you know how that goes in your MMO with your like, oh yeah, this is the new type of skeleton and it's dark gray.
Very few recycled mobs, very few recycled assets and textures. They did a really good job of populating their zones with stuff that they made to fit there.
Yeah,
And
Hill
that's
giants
points.
are brown. Wait, where are we at now? It's cold outside. Make them blue.
That's 100%. That's 100%. All right, Nathan, are we gonna get off a triple F minus here? That is the question of the day.
Now listen, the graphics are good. I'm not a fan of isometric, but I can't really. I just don't feel as invested in the game when it's isometric. But it looked really good. The game, the animations, everything. I mean, the city, the dungeons, and the music was freaking. It had some really high quality music in there. So, and I even got to say too that the sounds from like the attacks and the sounds from hits to the monsters, etc., really was pretty satisfying. So I think this was their high mark. And I also want to note, because this kind of falls under here, that when was the last time an MMO launched and it ran good, right? Like the frames were good. It generally just worked. So like I was pretty impressed right from the get-go. I was like, whoa, this is like running really smooth. This is, which once again, like you guys have pointed out earlier, this had went through several passes before it got to us, but it kind of showed there, right? Like I think the graphics looked really great. The only reason I wouldn't give it an A on graphics and sound is just because it's isometric, and that's it. I mean, if it would have been this quality and not, I would have given it an A. So I'll give it a B.
Yeah, like I feel like if we could have zoomed in and shifted to a 3D perspective in this game, it would have been an A plus, triple A plus flaming, because it was beautiful. I mean, it was really nice. It just, yeah, that isometric view is a little bit off-putting.
Oh, I fought that hard.
It's just that integration of like they're taking an action RPG like a Diablo top down and throwing in the other mechanics. Yeah,
it's that style of the game. It's I think not a lot of our cup of tea.
Yeah, and I can get over isometric, right? Like, but the way I get over isometric is because it's
something
so well
else
written,
there is awesome.
It's lore. It's like I feel like I'm playing D&D, therefore I'm kind of cool with that. Kind of for some reason, because of we're old and we played Baldur's Gate, etc. If it's D&D or it feels like it, I can totally get over the isometric. Like I can be immersed just like any other game.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, Mr. Theric, cash shop / monetization. This should have some interesting comments.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something that might be surprising actually on this one, because I'm glad I didn't buy this game. So if I had spent $40 on this game, I'd probably be pretty upset. And the funny thing about that is that actually is working in favor of the monetization scheme that this game is doing, which I usually don't support, which is that mobile style game where it's you play it free to play, and then they start getting at you when it gets the hooks in, and then you want to buy the things, your gear score, and you want better stuff, and the cash shop really comes into play. I'm sure if we had played longer and you get to the end game, that's where you're going to start feeling the need to spend some money on this game. But I didn't feel a need to spend any money on any of the time that we played it. I didn't feel like I was at a disadvantage because there was really no challenge to it. So, why would I pay for something when I'm not trying to overcome anything, unless it's like a social thing where I just want to, buy some status or something like that. But so I have to say the monetization for this game seems fair at this point, because it gives you lots of time to figure out whether you want to spend money on the game. Yeah, not a game that's well suited for a subscription model, I would say. It fits with what it is, and it's what you'd expect from a game like this. So when I say it's not the most offensive monetization scheme that I've ever seen, I think that's probably as good as I'm going to give it. It did have, dailies and stuff like that, but that's not really like a cash shop monetization thing. So I'll give it a C, pure middle of the road here.
Nice. Look at Derek being super generous. He's got a heart of gold.
I do. Heart of gold.
For me, I can't ignore, I know we didn't get to it, but I can't ignore the late game stuff, right? So to play in the late game, you and be competitive and be like on the cutting edge, that's where I like to live, right? If I'm going to play an MMO, I want to be competitive. I want to stay up for 48 hours. I want to like grind this thing out. And even if I'm not personally doing that, like I want that to be an option, and I want to watch other people do it, and I want to watch them like be the best. And like I liked watching the streams of the WoW guilds as they're like doing server first. Like that type of stuff. That's like right down my alley. But to be that in Lost Ark, like Asmongold was interviewing a guy, and he had to spend $1,500 to do that. And he's the guy that was that, and he was bleeding edge, and he said, "Dude, I got out of this cheaper than almost everyone else I know. Everybody else I know that I run with has spent way more money than that." That is absolutely ridiculous. You should not have to drop $1,500 in your MMO. In what? How long has this game been out? Month? 2 months?
Yeah, a month and a half here.
Month and a half. That's just. I mean, you've gone into the absolutely mobile, pay to win. It doesn't matter what you do. You just have to you have to fork over the cash, and I hate that. It's absolutely just garbage. It's not, however, like Guild Wars 2, like force it down your throat, like, oh, here's 15 windows that pop up that like for the it's not oppressive about its cash shop. It's like it feels like it's about to jump on you, but once you hit end game, it seems like everybody's saying that you have to fork over the money. So I can't give it a good grade on that. I would have otherwise, but so I'm gonna give it a D minus. Crypt.
So I think as far as like the cash shop, it's you as a player. What do you value? Do you want to play the game and get the recognition of being powerful first, or being in the cluster of people who wants to be powerful first, so people ask you questions? Because all you're doing is you're trying to manage your time within the game through your pocketbook. You don't need to do it. You don't have to do it. And there's plenty of people out there that are very happy just playing the game and getting the currencies as the game is intended, like getting the currency at just by playing. So I don't think you need to do that stuff. People choose to do that stuff because it's there. Uh, I gave the cash shop a D because even at a first glance, it does look like it's all aesthetics. But you can get currencies in the cash shop that, through an in-game mechanic exchange system that people figured out, you can convert it into a different type of currency that allows you to buy materials that will get you those upgrades that you need. So it's not a direct beeline, but there is a roundabout way to do it. Not easy, and that's why it gets expensive to do those things. So it's the values you put on it as a player. But the grade of the cash shop, if they remove the ability to purchase certain currencies, then the grade for me would go up, because I think the only thing that should be on a cash shop is aesthetics. But even then, it's kind of shaky ground, because I think you should be able to get aesthetics in game by discovering them, and then maybe having a tab to skin your character with the gear that you find, instead of just going straight to a cash shop and buying stuff. And even like, well, you can only buy emotes in the cash shop. Well, so what? Make the emotes drop in game. That way you have something to do in game and to go find something in game. You don't need the cash shop. It's a big fat D.
Stands.
So I definitely agree on the points that, for the most part, Lost Ark's cash shop really does, your interaction depends on what kind of player you want to be. If I was purely grading it from how I would interact with a cash shop, which is, oh look, there's some interesting cosmetic, shiny type things. Like it's a new mount, but it's not going to be a super speed mount because my mount speed is my mount speed type thing. I would have actually graded it much higher. I would have graded it much higher if you'd asked me a week and a half ago before their latest little kerfuffle happened, which is fun. Flip side of that is that there are two big issues I have with their cash shop. One is that they do the multiple cash shop based currency of the different gem types, which is that classic mobile style misdirect of making you jump through currency hoop to currency hoop, so that by the time you've gotten to the currency you actually want to spend, you have divorced it from having a monetary value unless you are very rigorously tracking it someplace out of game. And it is a classic technique to get you to do multiple conversions, to separate it and not understand the amount of money you're actually spending when you spend the third currency you have changed to.
Yep.
Starting straight off with that does not sit well with me.
It's predatory.
It is a design that what people can and do argue that it's because one of the two types is earnable in game, which can be exchanged for it. No, it is setting up a predatory model. Whether or not it is entirely predatory is more or less irrelevant because it enables predatory monetization. They have laid the groundwork for it.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Grip.
on that point that you're talking about, Stans, I have somebody that I know who is in Belgium, and Lost Ark is banned from Belgium because in Belgium, gambling is illegal, and Lost Ark does not articulate enough the things that revolve around the cash shop, so it is banned in Belgium because of gambling.
Yep, it has gamble boxes too, which I hate. But that's one of those things where I can happily just not interact with that. So that was the first big knock for me, and this grade would have been a lot higher if their March update hadn't come out and been such a fucking oops. So for anybody not following Lost Ark stuff, the first big content update dropped, and what a lot of people realized is that other than a very few people, nobody had the gear score to actually do the content that Lost Ark put out without forking over money in the cash shop to slam through a bunch of upgrade mats to get to this newest content. And Amazon and the I'm blanking on the name of the studio. Smilegate. Yes, thank you. They backpedaled. They said, "Oh, we thought people would be higher through vertical progression at this point. Our bad. We'll adjust things." But it also is one more of those things that goes to prove they are setting up the path to linking vertical progression and going through content to getting people to open their wallet. And it's a free-to-play game. They have to have some way that they are making people put money into the game. So I cannot fault them for having a mechanism to make paying money for something attractive and incentivized. But this was such a big, very clear indication of a way that they are designing for is, oh yeah, here is the very clear indication that paying for power is a thing because a bunch of people just had to do it to do the newly released content. So I'm going to knock it down to a C. If it was just grading it for the way I would interact with it, it would be much higher. But I don't like the aspects that they're putting in place for people who would want to play the game the way Drac would want to play the game if he was playing.
I think what... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to... What did you do for sound and graphics? For some reason, I didn't get your grade.
Sorry, who are you asking?
Stands.
Sound and graphics, A.
Go ahead, Crypt.
I had mentioned it before, and I kind of rest in that little space where I think we're having the conflicts based on like cultural acceptance, because over in Eastern cultures, like, hey, you want things, pay for it, right? And you see that in MMOs, right? You get all the gold sellers, right? You go to those websites and they're Eastern based websites because they have those types of tactics. And it's more acceptable. But then you come over to Western culture and it's like, we don't want that. We just want to play the game. Can we not do that? So I think there's that conflict there where you're trying to integrate a game that was developed for people and being transitioned to other groups of people. I just felt to note that.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's very Eastern.
There is the clash of gaming cultures, but Amazon and Smilegate both said that it was not going to be like that, and we already see that creeping in.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't sit well.
Nathan Napalm, cash shop and monetization.
So I don't like cash shops in general, right? I think there's better ways to try to make your money, right? I do agree that all developers need to make money, or obviously we don't get no games. But I think there's more honest ways to do it than cash shops, period, right? Like, and if you decide that, well, free to play is, the new fad, and that makes boatloads of money and more than subscriptions, etc., and that's what we need to fund our game, then I think you should at least leave the option. I can buy your game straight up and I can play on servers with people who bought the game straight up or subscription or whatever it is. And then let the free-to-play people play on their own free-to-play servers, right? Take those free-to-play items, put them earnable because we already gave you buttloads of money or paying you monthly, make those earnable in our servers, and then do your weird, crazy stuff. And then that would benefit both people. Because the problem with cash shops is that if that's how they're making their money, then that's how they're going to invest their time in the future of making new content. It's going to have to also have cash shop to pay for the new additional work that they're doing on the game. Therefore, it's going to progressively, by nature, get worse over time. So I hate cash shops, period. But I didn't know the thing. It was news to me about the March update. Didn't know that. Didn't know about the Asmund Gold Friend guy. I did feel like just from at least what I saw the game, it felt fairly not too intrusive. I knew though that when you got to end game, they're going to do that mat thing where it's like, oh, to +2 your sword, then you can earn these things in game, but it can break, or it can break your whole sword in some games. I knew they were going to do that because it's like the classic Korean MMO thing to do. But by that point, you've got hundreds of hours into the game. You need to fork over something to the freaking developers. So at that point, it comes down to how much does it really cost, and is that fair, and how bad is it could break and be useless. And that's kind of hard to kind of articulate and figure out, especially with the system they have where they kind of mix and match 4 or 5 different currencies. So I gave it a C just because I've seen way worse. It's kind of middle ground kind of territory at this time. However, it's gonna get worse, right? Like it's going to. It just has to.
It feels very Arc-agey to me, right? That's what it feels like.
They're just hiding it a little better than Arcade did off the bat.
Arcade was just like, this is how it is. Suck it up.
Yeah, Arcade is the craziest one, by the way, because they're the ones that were like, "Oh, sorry, my bad, guys. We didn't know." So if you buy the game now, then you don't no cash shop, and then it's out for 6 months. Like, oh, never mind, and also a cash shop. Like, bro, we paid for the game.
No,
you said,
and then they're like, no, wait. You don't understand. We're gonna launch an original TLP server, and then it's gonna be no cash shop, and they did it a second
That's
time.
What I'm talking about.
Yeah, they did it
twice. And they're the company that released the statement that said, "Let us tell you what pay to win is." Like, what? You're gonna game-splain me now? Like, we know what pay to win is. We don't need your opinion, okay?
So they did the proverbial sight
Yeah.
There was so
Straight
much
up.
rug pulling with that. This just
Straight up scammy,
But-
man.
yeah, different game.
We had not this game. That was
All right. So, Nathan, did you have anything else? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's it. It's a cash shop. I mean, you get what you get.
Now we move on to lore and immersion from the lore guide himself, Ranger Theric.
Well, I actually don't have much to say on this. When you don't read the quests and you don't read the stuff, it takes away from it. I mean, I got the gist of the story, and I don't want to oversimplify it here because it's not really fair to the game. But the sense that I got, this was a story about demons and being summoned, and the world's in trouble, and kind of feel like I've seen that before. It got old kind of quickly. In immersion for me, the sights and sounds are nice, and this is relevant because we were just watched Pantheon show off some really immersive visuals and sounds, but it comes from engaging gameplay, and that's it's got to be first and foremost, and it doesn't really have that. So I wasn't immersed because I wasn't interested in what I was doing. So no matter how nice it looks and how good it sounds, that's not going to save it. The lore, I have to, if we're talking about just world details, there did seem to be quite a bit of it in terms of finding just a small little detail on some piece of a rock, an inscription or something, and the detailing was nice. If it had a connection, if it actually meant anything, or it was just well designed, it's hard for me to say. But I appreciate that kind of stuff. So I noticed it when I saw it. I hope that it does have a deeper meaning in the game in some capacity, but I wasn't going to be around long enough to sort of get into that aspect of it, get that side of it. So it didn't do anything for me. So I did put my grade down as an F. I feel like that's a little unfair, just having sort of talked it out now a little bit. So if I can, I'm going to change my grade to a D, only because, realizing we didn't really explore it to the fullest, I guess.
You can switch your grades. It's not locked in till it's locked in.
Oh, good. Okay.
For me, I think it sums it up. I think we killed some boss. I don't even remember what dungeon we were in. And I'm listening to the thing, and then I just blurt out, okay, so red bad, blue good, got it. What's next?
Yeah, exactly.
That was a great clip, by the way.
And Cryptfox was like, you looked like you were so intently listening to what was going on. And I thought to myself, I never listening intently to anything that's going on in this game. I just roll my face across the keyboard and stuff dies, and we move on to the next thing. And so, dude, when I get into that mode, and as Theric said, when I'm not invested in the questing to that level, and I'm not invested in the game to that level, your lore just goes out the window. And I mean, it was kind of cool. The guy was a half demon, but he was a cleric, and so there was a little tension there. But I honestly wasn't paying any attention to it because I was just jamming the G button just to get through stuff as fast as possible, and it was super bad. So it's got to be a triple F minus for me. Again, this was another super just low spot in the game for me. The cutscenes were great, but it didn't help the lore. I was never at any point, there was no point where I was like, what's going on? And the game never forced me to ask that question. It never forced me to ask what's actually going on in this story. There was never any meaningful decisions. There was never any moment where I chose anything with the story, or there was never any moment where any of my faction was different because I made a choice.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's when the game makes everything optional, what are you? What is your game? Is it just so light that I can, does it allow it to be so thin that is it even a game anymore? I don't know. I don't like it. You have to force people to engage with it. You can't just let them ignore things.
Yeah.
Craziness.
All right, Cryptfox.
Okay, so major issue with me and the lore and the immersion was that the quests did not support it. So skip the quests.
You're right, exactly.
So clicking through the quests, and I got the lore from the instanced cutscenes where you're like meeting the prince. I got my lore from the cutscenes that they spent a lot of money on, and I enjoyed that stuff, and I was immersed in like the motivation. Like, so we got this tablet piece. We got the tablet that gives us the instructions to find the locations of these motes of energy that are going to release the arc or lead us to the arc. And there was one mode of energy that was being sought after by each of the 6 or 7 different demon lords and things like that. And I was really intrigued with it. And I got all of that info from the cutscenes. I didn't have to read the quests. I didn't have to do anything except go through and play the main story and get the lore from there. I think that's a very average way of delivering the lore, so I gave it a C+.
Yes.
Makes sense.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Very average. Mr. Sands and Fire.
So, like everybody else said, there actually really is a lot of lore and world building that the game has clearly done in one way or the other. You kind of have to go looking for a lot of it, or really be very careful about what you do and don't skip through, because if you scratch just below the surface or poke into things, there's lots of cool little lore bits of why these places, these areas that you visit are how they are, what's going on in them, the history and why some of the conflicts are happening. The characters, the NPCs we interact with, are basically mostly trash fire, aside from the main antagonist, who I actually really liked, because I like the fact that we have this recurring antagonist character who actually has a pretty well put together plan and tricks us into helping him repeatedly. Like, no, this dude is winning
point.
and outsmarting all of us. So there are all these cool little bits of world building and lore, and combined with the art direction, all the little touches they use to make it feel like a world, but then we get pulled out of it all the time by everything else that's not those things. So just as you start to get into something, we're like, "Ooh, I want to poke into this. I want to take a closer look at this." Fetch quest, G.
Right. Yes, exactly.
So I give it a C just because of how utterly schizophrenic the balance between the things that do lore and immersion well into bringing you in, and then their really effective ways at pulling you out of the game.
Yep. 100%. Nathan Napalm.
Yeah, I didn't like the lore. I thought it was pretty lackluster. I think the best way to kind of sum it up is the problem with the lore is that Cryptfox pretty much just told you the lore in like 37 seconds, right? Like he almost hit all the points, right? And I had to do a little research on it. So here's another big sign that you have bad lore. Go Google lore pages for Lost Ark. There isn't any. There's an article that breaks down the whole lore of the game, and it's maybe, if you print it out, 2, maybe 3 pages long, right? So, in other words, Super Mario Brothers has more lore than an MMORPG, and RPG is the important part for lore, right? Think of like places like like freaking Waterdeep, right? Where I could
Mhm.
probably spend like a month just looking up the history of that place, right? Or name or the Shire, or these places where it's like, and I know those are the mastercraft, right? I get it. I'm not saying every game has to have that level of lore, but what I'm saying is if that is the peak, that's the best, then Lost Ark doesn't even show up on this universe, right? Yeah, I didn't like it at all. Triple F minus. There's more history in my toilet.
Yeah,
Oh.
you got to bring your A game with this stuff. Like you can't just write it off. Like
Yeah.
I see games do this all the time where they, it's like, we've made this game, we've got graphics, we've got sounds. Oh, we should probably have some reason for the things you're doing. Does somebody want to just throw something together real quick? And I'm like, you can't do that, man. That's,
Right.
What's happening that's supposed to move the players through the world?
Yeah, right.
And Nathan, I
Gear.
actually know a lot about Waterdeep and its history, so we could probably talk about that all day.
Yeah, I'm a big fan
let's
of
have a
Waterdeep.
conversation about who the current masked lord is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've run players through Dragon Heist, and I ran all of Dungeon the Mad Mage, and I ran it not as a dungeon crawler. I ran it as a story narrative.
Nice.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I mean,
Oh,
Nathan,
sorry.
when you say, just last point, I'll just make quickly, Nathan, when you say there's, you look to research the lore and there wasn't anything out there, immediately I would think, oh, that's a market I could serve. That's a market I could hit. And I thought, nah, no, it's not
Somebody's
worth
got to
it.
make a wiki on this.
Yeah, that's right. There's viewers out
that's
there.
a one-page wiki right there. Okay, so this one's gonna be rough. Derek, addictability / fun.
Uninstalling was awesome. I'm addicted to uninstalling this game. Enough said. I'm out. Triple F minus.
Oh boy, it's not for me. It hasn't been the most fun MMO we played, but I won't go as far as Derek. I've had fun. I think, and this is gonna sound horrible, but I like the mechanics of the game. I like the guts of the game, the way the skills interacted. I can live with an isometric MMO. I think that someone should do that. It won't be my main MMO, but I would totally play it. And I like the way the graphics work and the sound look. Like they got a good base, but man, the questing and the no story and it's pretty rough. Like it's almost impossible to get through. So it really starts to, after a while, you feel like you're doing WoW dailies, right? You feel like you're just doing stuff to do stuff because you have to do stuff, because if you don't do the stuff, then you're going to be behind the other people. And what's going to happen if I get behind the other people? And then you realize, well, this isn't my job, so who cares if I get behind the other people?
Exactly.
Right.
And so yeah, it's got to get a D for me. The only thing that really saves it is the fact that the spells and skills are so cool. So I gotta update the cards here. Go ahead, Cryptbox.
Yeah, so Diablo 4 is going to come out, and it's going to be similar to this, but I think they're going to do it better just because it's Blizzard, and Blizzard is seeing how this is going. They're going to be like, all right, we need to make sure we don't do that. But they're going to have a lot of like the MMO aspects to it. I don't know. I don't think they're going to like label it as an MMO. I think they're going to just like keep it in that market, say it's an ARPG, but then there's like a high versatility of grouping going on with that. Because I know that I've seen videos where they're like people running around together in an open world. So I think that will be there. But this game, grouping was fun with you guys because I like you guys. So it was fun because I did that. I'm not addicted to this game at all. Um, but the immersion, I think coupling my love of the class that I was playing and the skills and the graphics and the music and the sound and the visual transitions enjoying going through the dungeons. I loved all of that stuff. I'm not addicted. Immersed sometimes. And I'm probably actually gonna be making a character on a different server, and I'm gonna speed through to get to 50 so I can play with some of my friends, because I have to know. I can't stop playing until I know. So I have to see what that 50 plus looks like. Once I do that, then I could take this book and I can put it down and be like, okay, I read that. I'm done. I have to be able to do that. So I give it a D.
Dance?
This is another one where I have to preface by saying I came into this game actively expecting that I was going to hate it and hoping that I was going to find things to like, because the core design, the isometric mouse movement, fixed camera action MMO is kryptonite for me. So this game 100% had the deck stacked against it in terms of specifically this grade here. So with that said, my note that I had written down was that I found myself, no matter how cool some of the design touches and choices and class things were, I found myself actively wanting to be done playing the game. So I'm glad it's over, but it surprised me in how many things kept me playing a game that I never thought I would enjoy in the slightest. So it's a high D for me. Like, it almost squeaked up into a C, aside from the fact that I just could not get sucked in for that addictability portion, partly because there kept being things that would pull me out of this is being fun into, oh God, I got a Mac G again. So it was so close to getting a better grade, and this was a stunner for me because I was expecting this was going to be the first time I busted out the triple flaming F-. And I was pleasantly surprised to give it a D.
Nice. Oh, I got you down for D plus. You said high D.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. If we're adding pluses and minuses, this is a solid D plus.
Perfect. Nathan Napalm, I know you're going to give this one high marks for fun and addictability.
Yeah, man. This game was just, I am not their target demographic at all. I did not like it. Besides, I thought that it looked nice and that the sound or the music was good. That's it. Like, that's realistically the only thing I liked about this game. I despise these kind of games. So I hated it bad. So I would never play this game. You'd have to pay me a lot of money to play it. Like, it would have to be like,
It'd have to be a big sponsorship.
It would have to be huge. It'd have to be like, dude, we're going to pay you $1 million a month, because I would hate my life. I would hate living if I had to play this game. So I get it. There's people that enjoy it. I'm not a big ARPG fan anyway. It has to be like super awesome, right, for me to get into even just an ARPG. So I'm just not their demographic, and I hated it, and I will never play this game ever again. I'm nothing could convince me. There's nothing they could even do to even make me come back and even install that back on my hard drive. So unfortunately, it gets a triple F. I would rather play Guild Wars 2.
Whoa!
And
That's
I
saying
hate
something.
Guild Wars 2.
That's saying some
it.
stuff.
And I would way rather, like, by leaps and bounds, I'd rather play Guild Wars 2.
Guild Wars 2 would be lucky to have you, Nathan.
Triple F minus on fire, flaming, flush it down the toilet. No.
Flush it.
Never addicted, never had fun.
Nathan was out after like week 1. He's like, wait, you don't need me? Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ghosted.
Yes!
And then he was like, he wasn't answering any questions. He was like, turned himself off.
Something came up.
Yeah. He turned himself invisible on Discord. Like,
Like he showed up to be on camera, and he was like, "Oh, the camera can't work." Over time, he
guys-
just stopped talking.
Guys, I hated the game so bad that I was like, I'll just join in and make funny comments. And I'm not gonna lie, watching you guys play, I was like,
That's painful.
giving me, so when you don't like something, it makes you like physically ill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This game made me physically ill. Like that's how bad I didn't like it.
This game was the fart that got busted in the room. It's just like, ugh.
I'm glad that something has finally surpassed Guild Wars 2 because I like Guild Wars 2 a little bit better than you. So, all right, so here we are. GPA does not have to be an average of your grades. It is just the overall grade you give to the game total.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No,
Okay,
that's coming
bad.
up. That's coming up. Yep.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Derek, you're up first for GPA.
I think the grades are spoken for themselves throughout this, so I'm going to give it a triple F minus. It's not my thing, and it won't be back in my life anytime soon.
Won't be. For me, I'm gonna give it a C. There's something weirdly addicting about this game. I don't know what this, and I expected to absolutely hate this game. I really did. I don't like isometric. I don't like fourth-person groups. I don't like mashing through tons of enemies. But something about the spells and skills is just so well done. And it kind of addicted me a little bit. I liked playing with that piece of it, and it was really fun. And I found myself logging in every once in a while just to like, oh, I'm going to change up my skills and see what happens. And I don't know, that piece of it was super fun to me. So, and it was super pretty, and it ran super well. And when I pressed the buttons, things did things exactly how I thought they were going to be. And I don't know, I thought it was okay. I do not put it in the, my worst MMO is BDO. I hated that game, the absolute worst.
Pretty bad, yeah.
I like playing this way better than BDO, and so I'm gonna give it a C. Crifox.
I was all over the place on the scores. I had a couple Fs, a couple Ds, Cs, As. To be honest, it's an average game, so I gave it a C.
Stands of Fire.
Yeah, mine were pretty much all over the place as well. What really dragged my final overall grade down, and I waffled back and forth with this a lot, whether it was the lowest of the C's or the highest of the D's, and I'm gonna go with the highest of the D's. This would be like a D plus, almost a C minus. The problem kept being that the places that are most important to me as a player in MMOs are where it fell flat more often than not.
It's true.
If it had been stronger in the things like grouping, quest design, and the something to hook or addict me, I can overlook a lot of other stuff and keep going on those alone in an MMO. But those weaknesses of the game for me were also the places that I am going to weigh the heaviest in the game. So I gave a lot of higher overall grades in the individual categories, but its scoring so bad in those just dragged it down into that D plus.
All right, we'll end this on a good note for Lost Ark.
Surely Nathan will save us here.
Nathan should bring our average up. You want me to just pencil in a triple F minus there for you?
Well, no, I don't want to give a triple F minus.
Okay.
So let me explain why.
Okay.
I would rather go to the 9 hells and live there for eternity than have to play this game. I really don't like it. I don't know if there's very many games I hate as much as this game, just overall. So the reason I don't want to give a triple F minus is because I don't want to use a word that my friend, the rogue, is his name, to desecrate his name. So I'm going to, unfortunately, have to give this one a triple F negative.
We should just change the whole scoring system to tacos. Okay, like, do we give it 0 tacos or do we give it 10 tacos?
But here's the thing, that leaves us associating tacos with potentially some really bad memories.
And tacos are really good. Yeah,
I've had some bad tacos.
Oh, so have I, but I don't like to, I don't like to go down that path intentionally.
But no matter how bad a taco is, at some point you'll probably eat another taco. We're not playing this game again. I'm not.
Negative.
Nathan's not.
That's how it rolls.
Tuesday. It is Tuesday.
All right. Well, that puts a bookend on Lost Ark. We are done. Not
closed.
Not our longest, not our shortest. We played it for a solid month.
Yep.
And I feel like we've covered it. So we are now moving on. And next week will be Project Gorgon, inspired, I think, a lot by the MMO March Madness, because a lot of people were voting for that, and so we're like, well, we should check it out. So next week we'll be starting Project Gorgon. These guys have already dived into it. I haven't even started my character yet. Everybody's all roaming around doing stuff already. But
Crypt went nuts.
You gotta get in there.
So
I mean, I'm kind of a death knight now.
We shall see.
Yeah. So next week will be Project Gorgon, and we will see you then. Nathan, you got anything coming up on the schedule?
No, nothing really crazy to be announced now.
Okay. Theric, you got anything you want to talk about?
Well, I just was going to mention my lore exploring video that usually goes up on Wednesday morning is not going to go up this week because I got busy doing another lore project that I'm fully now invested in and completely sidetracked on. So, but it's Pantheon lore, so you're gonna something to look forward to there. I don't know when it'll be ready, but it's getting there. So, working on that.
All right, Crypt Fox.
I am not gonna be streaming tomorrow. But I will be on Thursday and Friday. Thursday, I'm gonna be doing a split stream. I'm gonna be playing Elden Ring early in the morning, 9:30 a.m. And then I'm gonna roll into Tiny Tina's Wonderland after that. So if you guys don't know what that is, it's basically a Borderlands game, but it's Dungeons and Dragons heavy. I know nothing about the game. I just know that it's very, very Dungeons and Dragons themed, and the people who developed it were very D&D heavy enthusiasts. So I'm gonna be diving into that. So if you like D&D stuff, hey, come hang out for a little bit.
All right, and I have released a Pantheon boxing video that has been getting a lot of comments.
I'm sure that one is generating some comments.
Yeah, everybody should check that out. It's really well done, Drac. You did a good job digging up some super old clips of Kilson that I'd never seen before. I really appreciated your research on that.
So, yes, and if you've never seen someone 48 box a raid in EverQuest, you definitely need to go check out because it's super wild. So, make sure that's over on the Pantheon Plus YouTube. So make sure to check that out. Share it with your friends. I'm put some work into that one, so it's a lot of fun. And we will see you next week as we
Drag. Do you want to do any shout outs for any of the people?
Yeah, I made you a mod. You want to do some shout outs?
Sure. Let's do Sparrow real quick.
Yeah, because she's lurking in the chat here, and I know that.
Oh, does she not have a clip yet? Because it didn't play the clip.
Oh, she might not have a clip. Let me see. Hit Mugen. Mugen's doing his thing.
Yeah, Mugen's been playing Elden Ring on stream. And
Nobody's
tomorrow
got
night,
clips.
tomorrow night is Sparrow's Lord of the Rings online streaming night as well. Plug for that.
Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna have to hit yourself. I think you're the only one that has
Okay.
clips.
Yeah, I'm sitting in some ads right now.
Yeah, I know we all are.
Oh, it's not working. All right,
Oh,
well, we'll have to
oh,
play with that
oh,
more. It's supposed to launch a clip, but it's not. It's not rolling. Oh, what?
Well, those are the links to everybody. So.
Yeah. Check out the streamers and also check out Nathan Napalm over on YouTube at the Nathan Napalm. All right. Well, I had a great time tonight, even though Lost Ark may have not been our favorite. I love hanging out with you guys, and I love chatting about MMOs, even if it's kind of us just really critiquing MMOs.
Yep.
So we will see everybody next week. I'm going to put this entire stream on the YouTube. All the grading streams are going on the YouTube for posterity. So you can check that out 24 hours later. Everybody wave bye-bye to the peoples.
Bye to the
Good
Bye,
night.
the peoples.
Bye, peoples.
Oh.